We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxingego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Wow, Dillian the body snatcher Whyte suing the WBC over his mandatory spot. What up, fight world? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also subscribe to my channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang, notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the super chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, the Cash App, and the Patreon family. We working. Make sure you guys sign up for the Patreon right now. I got some cool stuff coming for Patreon and YouTube channel members. You don't want to miss out. Click that link in the description box for Patreon, or to become a YouTube channel member, hit the button below that says join by the subscribe button. Now you guys can follow along with me. Sky Sports link in the description. Very interesting stuff. Dillian Whyte takes legal action against the WBC. Yes, you heard it right. Legal action. The WBC confirms Dillian Whyte has taken legal action against governing body over date of mandatory title fight. The DAZN curse continues. Dillian Whyte and team, they feel like they might be starved out and not get the February 2021 shot, so they're looking to have like somebody else mediate. Now, with my trusted assistant to help me do the reading, Money Penny. You know, hold on. We're going to do it all the way. This is crazy. WBC at odds with Dillian Whyte. Who would have thunk? Let's get it. Back to you, Money Penny.
Have confirmed that Dillian Whyte has taken legal action against the governing body about the date of his mandatory WBC heavyweight title fight. Whyte defeated Oscar Rivas by unanimous decision in a WBC final eliminator last July to secure his mandatory shot at the WBC belt currently held by Tyson Fury. With the WBC president Mauricio Sulaiman reiterating last month that the Brixton man would receive the world title fight by February 2021, Fury is set to face Deontay Wilder in a third fight by the end of the year. While the WBC champion has already agreed a financial deal in principle for an undisputed world title fight with Anthony Joshua, but Whyte has now reinforced the terms of his WBC mandatory fight. WBC President Sulaiman told Sky Sports, "There is a procedure with regards to the date of the mandatory in the heavyweight division. Upon direct advice of WBC legal counsel, I am not in position to discuss any further." Fury's US promoter Bob Arum revealed that he plans to hold talks with the WBC in a bid to delay or eliminate the Whyte fight, and the top-rank boss suggested his fighter could even receive the status of WBC franchise champion, which would remove his mandatory title commitments. "We will be talking to the organizations to eliminate mandatories, or to postpone them all for at least 1 year," Arum told Sky Sports earlier this month. But matchroom boxing promoter Eddie Hearn has insisted that Whyte should still receive a monstrous fight against Fury early next year, with Joshua battling the winner in the summer of 2021. The point of Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua and the teams agreeing to the structure of that deal can happen. That first fight can happen at the end of next summer, Hearn told Sky Sports. It will be 2021. But there is a big period of time where Dillian Whyte should be getting his shot at the world title, and that's important to us. Whyte is the WBC interim champion and will return to action in a rescheduled fight against Alexander Povetkin this summer. The 32-year-old has warned that his world title ambitions will not be delayed any longer after securing a guaranteed fight with Fury. "The whole thing's a joke and I'm not putting up with it anymore," Whyte said earlier this month. The WBC.
Thank you, Money Penny. So you guys heard it here first. Listen, Dillian Whyte is suing the WBC, so you know, he's taking it to the legal route, like trying to get, you know, legalities involved, trying to get his opportunity. We'll see if it pays off for him. Listen, I've been over this time and time again. Smash the like button. I don't really feel sorry for Dillian Whyte in this situation, and I explained it, and I guess I'll continue to explain it for those who have missed the past videos and live streams where I've discussed this. The bottom line is this: Dillian Whyte has had opportunities at a belt, at a title shot, and through faults of his own team, those have not been secured. So I can't really blame the WBC for Dillian Whyte pulling out of the Kubrat Pulev eliminator, because him and Eddie Hearn thought it would be wise and a bigger money fight to fight Joseph Parker. That's something they did. As far as suing the WBC, here lies one of the problems that Dillian Whyte may be faced with. The WBC, as I mentioned in previous videos, but let me reiterate this: they have their contracts written out, or like their, rule set or whatever. To my knowledge, they have it explicitly, like they have lawyers and people to draw up and write up the actual linguistics and the dialogue, the jargon, if you will, of these contracts, so it makes sense. And ultimately, if you read through that information, I believe it explicitly gives the WBC veto power. They have a body or a committee of people that they at any point can utilize to make decisions. Like they can vote, and they have vote due processes where they'll say, hey, do you want to make a belt for this fight? Or, what should we do? This person failed a drug test, but they have a doctor's note, whatever. And they're able to. So when Luis Ortiz failed a drug test in the Wilder fight, and then it got rescheduled because the WBC went through the due process, and they went through the appeals process with Luis Ortiz's team, who had a doctor's note, said he has hypertension, and the doctor was willing to testify, and and then they vote on it. So to my knowledge, everything's spelled out where they ultimately, with their belt, they have the final say. They can determine to stand down on mandatories being called for the greater good of boxing. If they feel it's in the best interest to make a mega fight by not calling the mandatory, they can do that, and it's spelled out in the contract. So I don't really know what this lawsuit from Dillian Whyte is going to do, because again, the WBC is a professional organization. They have dates, times, timestamps. They have orders that were not met from Dillian Whyte's people. Just to give you a quick example, and I'm not going to do this every single time I do a Dillian Whyte WBC video, but Dillian Whyte, ESPN, boom. This guy doesn't even work. Dan Rayfield doesn't even work for ESPN anymore. So it's an old article since he's no longer employed by ESPN. April 24th, 2018, right? So if they go to court, Dillian Whyte says his case, the WBC can bring up stuff like this: Dillian Whyte back in 2018 and Luis Ortiz eliminator was ordered. It was ordered as the WBC provides title status updates. Again, this is April 2018. To this day, look, WBC President Suleiman was busy Tuesday. President sanctioning body issued several updates, right? They have all this dated. Organization ordered a final title elimination fight. You see that? Final. You guys know what the word final means. Title elimination fight between England's Dillian Whyte and Miami-based Cuban defector Luis King Kong Ortiz for the right to become the division's second mandatory challenger behind Dominic Breazeale for the right to challenge titleist Deontay Wilder. Ortiz coming off a highly competitive loss to Wilder. So this was the same year Wilder beat Ortiz the first time, but after that fight. To this day, Luis Ortiz never got a shot with Dillian Whyte, but they did fight a guy that Dillian Whyte had already beaten in Derek Chisora, which was unnecessary and unneeded, but that's what they did. So there's too many occurrences like that from Team Whyte where it's going to be hard. The WBC told you to fight Luis Ortiz. Dominic Breazeale was listed. He already got his shot at the mandatory. Dominic Breazeale also called out Dillian Whyte, said we could scrap and then make sure there's only one. No 1A, 1B. You fight me, and then that person fights Wilder. Dillian Whyte's team didn't make that happen. So there's a string of this behavior from Eddie Hearn and Dillian Whyte, and this is all documented. It's documented on my videos. It's documented by the WBC and their timestamps, and they have the dates and the letters that they sent out, things of this sort. So I don't know. I don't know what the lawsuit is suggesting or containing, but either way, the DAZN curse continues, and it's a bad look for Dillian Whyte, because I think he's finally realizing that he was used by his own team, Eddie Hearn, and him fighting Tyson Fury, Wilder winner, ultimately doesn't matter. I think Eddie Hearn used him as a plot to try to act like he wanted and cared about Dillian Whyte being in the title shot picture. But now he's on no man's land, forced to sue the WBC for whatever reason and try to prove this case, which costs money to sue somebody, things of that sort. Because if you look at all the recent news, it appears that Dillian Whyte, he thought he was going to get to February 2021. That might get pushed back. He keeps getting, the short end of the stick, he feels. But part of that is because of him and his own team. You dig? Tyson Fury, Bob Arum saying he wants to franchise him, basically. Or at the very least postpone Dillian Whyte. So Dillian Whyte's like, man, I want to fight. I want a big fight. I want to fight with them. And Eddie Hearn can't get it done. And I don't understand this move from Dillian Whyte, point blank period. I don't, because of the past history, which is easy to prove in court. Dates, times, and mandatory orders and eliminators order. They could show this history of Team Whyte not fulfilling that. But beyond that, we know in boxing that typically unifications, and especially unifications for undisputed, it really trumps a mandatory. That's just kind of common knowledge. So most sanctioning bodies are going to stand down for unifications, especially when all the belts are collectively at stake. Wilder Fury, whoever wins the third fight, will have the last link in the chain for all the belts. So if they went directly into Joshua, presumably, then that would be an undisputed fight for all the belts. So why would a much bigger fight like Fury versus Joshua or Wilder versus Joshua, why would the WBC say, hey, no, we got to give Dillian Whyte an opportunity instead of being a part of a bigger historic fight for all the marbles? I don't see how Dillian Whyte will win that battle. Like I said, this is just kind of common sense. And the WBC is going to, Dillian Whyte, I don't know if he's getting fed bad information, but Dillian Whyte's acting like he's under the impression that he's been the mandatory for several years, but that's easily not the case. I could pull up everything that I'm talking about. Dillian Whyte, it says this is an ESPN article from 2018. It says they want you to fight Luis Ortiz, Dillian Whyte versus Luis Ortiz. This is Dan Rayfield, former ESPN guy, for the right to become the division's second mandatory. So how is it that an ESPN writer knows that Dominic Breazeale is the number one mandatory, but you listen to past Dillian Whyte interviews and he keeps acting like Dominic Breazeale wasn't the mandatory for Wilder, who Wilder actually fought and knocked out in one round. And he's acting like he was the guy, and he's been robbed and shamed and led astray to wait 600 days or whatever. This is a professional organization writing an article, and they're calling it how it was listed, for the right to become the division's second the operative word being second mandatory challenger behind Dominic Breazeale for the right to challenge Wilder. So I don't know if he's getting bad information, but Dillian Whyte seems to believe that he's been waiting this whole time and he was always the person in charge. He was always the guy to get the shot, but that's not correct. He wasn't the mandatory. Look, the WBC has all this. This is all documented. This is the same people that wrote the article about the WBC lawsuit. Dillian Whyte, Dominic Breazeale ordered to fight by the WBC. He didn't fight him, right? Dillian Whyte and Dominic Breazeale opened the fight talks, but they never made the fight. So Dillian Whyte and his team never obliged the WBC, and now you're trying to sue him? Look, here's another. Look, Sky Sports, this is from 2018. Dominic Breazeale would welcome a fight against Dillian Whyte. This is him calling them out. It says the Californian, and Brazil's from California, not Dillian Whyte, so you know that's what they're talking about. The Californian was installed as the mandatory challenger for Deontay Wilder's WBC title after he beat Eric Molina, much to the dismay of Dillian Whyte, who is the WBC's #1 contender. So that's at least 2 articles that got it dead on what it was. Dillian Whyte initially was 1B and Dominique Brazil was 1A. Dominique Brazil was the actual mandatory. And this is Sky Sports writing this article. So we have ESPN and Sky Sport. What are you suing for, sir? You know, and Wilder, Brazil, I was at this fight. Simple Google search, boom. Deontay Wilder KOs Dominique Brazil. He fought his mandatory. Dillian Whyte did not become an actual mandatory until the Oscar Rivas fight. That's what it is. Yeah, I think this article even said it. I think it even said it. Whyte defeated Oscar Rivas by UD in a WBC final eliminator last July. Wilder fought Brazil, his mandatory, in May. I was there. I remember because my dad's birthday is in May, and I missed my dad's birthday because I was covering that fight. So I had to call him. You know, my dad's birthday, May 16th. The fight, I think, was like May 18th. This article that's talking about the lawsuit that was just published says Whyte defeated Oscar Rivas by UD in a WBC final eliminator last July to secure his mandatory shot. Listen, if you know how boxing works in the rule, that's why I said I don't know if Dillian Whyte's being fed bad information. Wilder, I can pull this all up. Wilder fought Dominique Brazil. Look, Wilder violently knocks out Dominique Brazil in round 1. Yahoo Sports. That was in May. Look, I told you May 18th, and this article was written May 18th. Boom. So my facts add up. So once you've defeated your mandatory, you generally have 1 full year. Say it with me. 1 full year, 365 days before you typically have to fight. If you only have 1 belt like Wilder did, you typically have 1 year before your mandatories due up. They said that the mandatory was going to be ordered by February 2021, which is roughly, a little bit under a year from when the Brazil fight was. However, we had a worldwide global pandemic, so boxing was at a standstill and there were no fights happening. So Wilder the belt exchanged hands because Wilder lost to Tyson Fury in February. And then immediately after that, in March, we went into a pandemic, which has put boxing pretty much out of commission while we figure shit out and pick up the pieces for about 4 to 6 months. So the order for Dillian Whyte to get this shot was initially slated for February 2021. But as Bob Arum is saying, with the inability to stage fights, it's not out of the question for the WBC to further push that back and say, hey, Bob Arum, he has Top Rank, and Tyson Fury, who has the WBC belt, aka he inherited Wilder's baggage. You have to fight the mandatory. But how could we hold him to that year point of like, hey, you have a year to defend before it's called up again? But then we haven't been able to fight for 3 or 4 or 5 months, maybe even longer because of the pandemic. So Bob Arum's request to delay that should be met. It's just what it is. Even if Dillian Whyte's mad or whatever, it's probably going to be met. And it makes sense because you have a year to defend, and then part of that got cut off because of the pandemic. So what they're saying is Joshua Fury would fight next year, which is also a unification of belts. And not only a unification, it's undisputed before undisputed. So I don't see how Dillian Whyte's going to win here. How are you going to supersede the Bob Arum's argument that, hey, you shouldn't be able to call the February 2021 mandatory as you stated because there was an unprecedented event in the world and a pandemic. Like, okay, put it this way. I got I got like emails. Luckily, fortunately for me, I've managed my money, and I work from home, so I wasn't really affected as much as others when it came to this pandemic. Thank God I made some of the changes. But I got letters, and sometimes when I log into my credit card companies, they say, hey, due to this global pandemic, if you're having hardships or you're unable to pay your bills as much or on time, we have assistance available for you, so we could defer your payments because of what's going on in the world. So it's no different in boxing. If credit card companies, which obviously they want timely payments, otherwise they're going to report this to your credit score and your credit report, they're even offering accommodations and deferred payments because of this unprecedented time, and saying, hey, your March and April bill, we'll defer it so you can get on your feet because there's a crazy pandemic in the world. So we're not going to press you for it. Just pay us back after. So if a credit card company is willing to do that, why would the WBC say, no, we told Dillian Whyte February, so despite this global pandemic, our ruling sits? The other thing that's bad is Dillian Whyte is always talking ish about the WBC. So I think for that reason, they're less likely to want to accommodate you anyway. On top of other reasons like Joshua, Fury, Wilder, Joshua, whatever happens for Undisputed is a much bigger fight than Tyson Fury versus Whyte or Wilder versus Whyte. So I don't see how Dillian Whyte's going to really win this battle. Let me know what you guys think. Drop your thoughts. Let me know how this lawsuit plays out. But I think this is a reality check. It's a reality check for Dillian Whyte. He feels he played his part, but you listen to Eddie Hearn, who said this is the guided path, this is what you should be doing, and you did everything. So I can understand feeling scorned, but you got to look at that man promoting you more than the WBC. The WBC gave you avenues to get to the belt or to become the number one mandatory. IBF, they gave you avenues. You didn't do it. As far as, I think it was the WBA, Usyk moved up to heavyweight. So there's a rule that it's, if the guy was a unified, like undisputed champion, then he got dibs on the belt, like the WBA or WBO. So that's not a rule targeted against Dillian Whyte. That's just what the rule has been. If you were undisputed and you're moving up and you were the super champion previously, then they'll bump you up in the queue. Happened with Terrence Crawford. I think that it might be the WBO. Terrence Crawford was undisputed at 140 after he beat Julius Ndago. So his very first fight at welterweight, 2 fights that I covered, his first fight at welterweight, he got a crack at a title. So Bob Arum knows the game. That's another Bob Arum top ranked fighter. Terrence Crawford's first fight was a title fight at 147. So there might have been a mandatory or somebody who was ranked number one previously, but the fact that you had an undisputed fighter moving up in weight who was a super champion and undisputed, they give you that type of love, like, and say, hey, you're moving up, so we're gonna bump you up in the queue. We don't care who's number one. You automatically by default become number one. It's just what it is. So, it's looking to me like an uphill battle for Dillian Whyte. And I think, again, he's kind of been fed bad information and leadership and used to a point. So I can understand why he's mad, because he just wants his shot. He's a good fighter, wants his shot. But I don't see how he's going to prove or beat the WBC here. I really don't. Let me know what you guys think. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Also sign up for ESPN Plus, home of a lot of original content. They got docu-series. They just did one on Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa, Bruce Lee, B. Walter, right? Go check out ESPN Plus. Ton of content, archive fights, UFC, boxing. Use my link in the description. It does help my channel when you guys click on that link. Get ESPN Plus as a standalone app, or you can bundle it, ESPN Plus, Hulu, and Disney Plus, all 3 apps for one price, $12.99 a month. And again, it helps the channel. Let me know what you guys think. I'm out. Holla at the kid. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego, signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.